Recently, in Uzbekistan's capital of Tashkent, This is America and the World attended the international conference, Central and South Asia, Regional Connectivity, Challenges and Opportunities. Hosted by Uzbekistan's President, Shavkat Mirziyoyev, the conference attracted high-profile guests from the region, including the President of Afghanistan, Prime Minister of Pakistan, and foreign ministers, diplomats, and delegations from Uzbekistan's neighboring countries, the United States, China, Russia, Iran, and countries throughout the world. The goal of the event was to facilitate dialogue among the countries in the region, to explore and promote potential economic cooperation, and to assess the opportunities and the challenges for peace in Afghanistan. On this program, we visit with the United States Ambassador to Uzbekistan, Daniel Rosenblum, at the ambassador's residence in Tashkent. We talk about his mission in Uzbekistan and the importance of the Central Asia region from a U.S. perspective. Underwriting for This is America and the World is made possible by the Japan-America Society of Washington, D.C., the Republic of Uzbekistan, the Sultanate of Oman, the Kingdom of Morocco, the National Association for Children of Addiction, Faces and Voices of Recovery, the Forerunner Foundation, the Rotendaro Family Trust, and the Embassy Series, Uniting People Through Musical Diplomacy. In tandem with the Central and South Asia Conference in Tashkent, I met with Ambassador Daniel Rosenblum, who represents the United States to the Republic of Uzbekistan. Mr. Ambassador, terrific to be with you today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to do it. Pleasure to talk to you.
Uzbekistan, just for the folks at home, paint a picture for us.
Okay.
What do you love about the country?
Well, I love the generosity and hospitality of the people, above all. They have an incredible tradition of hospitality here. I've heard it said that to an Uzbek, the guest is as important and to be as honored like the father. It's the same kind of treatment. I also love the diversity of the country, which is not something that people intuitively assume is here, but this country is really a melting pot of a lot of different cultural influences. And when you travel around and talk to people, you learn about that. There's a lot of Persian influence, a lot of Turkic influence, of course a lot of Slavic influence from the Russian, the time when it was part of the Russian Empire. But they blend together in a really interesting way, and so that's one of the things I love about it too. And I think I also would say I love the food. I mean, just straight out, the food here is delicious, interesting, and always full of surprises.
So when you talk about hospitality and food, you're halfway home already, right?
Yeah.
You know the area, this area of Central Asia, which folks at home don't seem to have much of an understanding. We'll put a map on the screen. So talk a little bit about, visualize that map, about the surrounding countries, and also the importance of Uzbekistan.
Right. So, from the standpoint of U.S. policy and interests, Central Asia is important because of, to quote the old real estate adage, location, location, location.
Okay.
It's right, as you point out, it's sort of surrounded by countries that are very important from a foreign policy point of view. Russia to the north, China to the east, Iran and Afghanistan to the south. And so almost by definition, it's going to be in the center of U.S. policy attention. From a historical point of view, Central Asia has often been, in the past, a crossroads. And that's something a lot of people, I don't think, understand or appreciate, because this goes way back 1,000 years. If you go back to sort of the 8th century, between the 8th century and the 13th century, in many ways Central Asia was at the center of civilizational progress. And So it has this rich historical tradition as a crossroads. It's right in the middle of all these important geopolitically important countries. And that's why it matters to the U.S. It's also what makes it a really interesting place to be. The other thing I would point out is that people tend to have maybe stereotypes or to lump it into one image. So when I go back to the U.S. and talk to folks about what I'm doing out here, their first reaction is it's a stand. So there must be violence, instability, bad feelings, hostility towards the U.S. And frankly, nothing could be further from the truth here in Central Asia, in the 5 so-called stands of Central Asia. It's generally very welcoming and friendly to the United States. It's also a relatively secure and stable place compared to so many other parts of the world.
Wow.
It has some challenges, but it's very, overall very stable. And it has great promise and potential, I would say, for its future. But it's, that's sometimes been a challenge for me to explain back in the U.S. But once people visit here, they have a completely changed perception.
Yeah, I was here in May, and I was eager to come back because of the warmth and hospitality of the people and the culture. Absolutely amazing. How would you characterize the relationship between the United States and Uzbekistan?
I would say right now it's in a very good place. I know that you interviewed Foreign Minister Kamilov here, and he's in maybe one of the best positions of anyone in the world to pass judgment on that question, because he's been part of U.S.-Uzbekistan relations for 25 years, going back to the 1990s, and in the center of it. And he often says that he's never seen the relationship as good as it is now. But I guess people will ask, what does that mean?
Common interests,
what is it that makes
common
it good?
goals?
Yeah, it's, I think what's happened, especially over the last 5 years, is that the relationship has broadened and deepened. It's gotten, it's strong and growing across all aspects. Security cooperation is thriving right now. A lot of our sort of military to military relationships. Economic ties are growing. Slowly, to be frank, because it takes a while for U.S. companies to decide that they want to do business here, and there are some challenges for them to overcome. But the economic links are growing steadily. We've seen, I think, just before the pandemic, if you compare 2018 to 2019, the last year before the pandemic, our trade volume, bilateral trade, more than doubled. So it's on the upswing. And then the human ties, the people-to-people ties, have been growing a lot in the last 5 years. At all levels, we're talking, university to university, scientist to scientist, businessman to businessman. I mean, there's a lot more back and forth and interaction. So in all those respects, I think the relationship is thriving.
So we have this country in Central Asia that, under the leadership of a very, I would say, progressive president, Mirziyoyev, brings together delegations from 60 foreign countries, 200 press people over the last few days. So a huge conference. What was the goal of the conference, the purpose of the conference, the why of the conference, and how do you see it?
So the purpose of the conference was, I would say, had several aspects to it. First of all, Uzbekistan and its Central Asian neighbors really see advantages to being better connected to South Asia. Better connected through transportation, through trade links, through energy links. They see an advantage for a couple of reasons. One, because they see the market of South Asia. You have...
Let me interrupt and have you back with a map on the screen, talk about some of those key countries in South Asia.
Well, first and foremost, I think, in terms of the connection, is Afghanistan, because they have to go through Afghanistan to get to South Asia. And that relates to another important goal of this conference, which is to better connect Afghanistan to Central Asia as a means of, in the long run, providing more stability and economic prosperity there. So that's an important goal. Beyond Afghanistan, Pakistan plays a key role. Pakistan gives Central Asia potentially access to seaports, which they don't have. These are all landlocked countries. It also, of course, is a large country with a big market, big consumer of energy. And Central Asia has a lot of excess energy supplies. In fact, there's one, to take a slight detour here, there's a project the US has supported over the 10 years now. It's called CASA 1000. CASA is Central Asia, South Asia. 1000 is 1,000 megawatts of electricity. And essentially what that project is doing is bringing excess hydropower from Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan south through Afghanistan to Pakistan, which needs it. And it's a complicated project with lots of transmission lines having to be built and lots of infrastructure. But in the end, it's going to be very mutually beneficial to Central Asia and South Asia. And that's the type of thing that this conference is promoting, those kinds of ideas. So finally, I should just mention in terms of the South Asia tour, India, of course, plays a very key role. The enormous population, lots of demand for consumer goods that can come from Central Asia, and also just a very influential and important country in the region. So those countries in South Asia very much see the importance of having that connectivity as well. And so the conference was, I would say, going back to the purpose of the conference where you started, this connectivity to South Asia because of the benefits that can accrue economically, stabilization of Afghanistan, very important, and finally, but not unimportant, Uzbekistan is trying to carve out a new role for itself as a leader in regional cooperation and regional integration. And this conference, of course, was a very good way of doing that. It's symbolically, it shows that Uzbekistan has arrived in a place where it can do this sort of thing.
When I visited in May, just doing preliminary research, I didn't quite get the idea of the reforms that the president has put into play here in the last 3 or 4 years. Talk a little bit about a country that has gone from zero to 60 in a very short period of time. These reforms, whether it's freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of protest, and to try to put all of that into play in a very short period of time is really an amazing challenge and accomplishment, huh?
It is. It's a challenge, it's an accomplishment, and it's a work in progress.
Yes.
It's very much a work in progress.
Yes.
As the president and the leadership here fully admit, it's, for those of us who've followed the region for a long time, because I've been coming to Central Asia for 20, 25 years, there are things happening that we never imagined, and changes happening that we never imagined. And so, when President Mirziyoyev came into office in late 2016, honestly speaking, those outside who were observing were not expecting big changes. After all, he had been prime minister under President Karimov for 12 years.
Yes.
And so, the easy prediction is more of the same. But he very quickly and right out of the gate decided his country needed to fundamentally transform. There's a lot of different analysis about why he made that decision. I think it really comes down to he saw that they were falling behind the rest of the world. He saw that the country needed to modernize, it needed to open its economy, and it needed to change its relationship with neighbors in order to promote more stability and more connectivity, going back to this conference. So the important things about the reforms I would note is, first of all, as you said it's yourself, they're comprehensive. That is, a lot of leaders might have come in and said, we need to modernize the economy to generate growth and just focus on that. But he quickly saw, or was advised, that it's all connected. You can't just reform the economy without looking at political institutions, freedoms that people have, or for that matter, you can't do it without taking into account people's attitude towards their government and what benefit they see themselves getting from the government. So the reforms are comprehensive. They're in all areas. They're also based on the idea that we need to keep correcting ourselves, and that's really important. There's an openness to admitting we made a mistake, and an openness to receiving advice and assistance from outside, including from the United States. So those characteristics have been really important. But the final point I'll make about the reform is, going back to saying it was a work in progress, is there's been a lot of plans, a lot of speeches, and even some legislation passed. It's still a long way from being implemented in many respects. Some important changes happened right off the bat. For example, they made the currency convertible, which it hadn't been before. Really important things. A lot of important symbolic things. Release of political prisoners, for example, which happened over the first couple of years. Really important. But day to day, in terms of day-to-day life, there's a lot that hasn't changed. And when you go out and talk to people, you hear that from them. And so, again, the president is aware of this. President Mirziyoyev, he knows you can't turn a switch and change overnight. It's a struggle, but we're here. The United States is here. We're not alone. There's lots of international partners to help the process, to share our knowledge and experience, and to help move it.
What do you see as your mission as our U.S. ambassador?
So my overall mission is to nurture the relationship and help move it along so it continues to broaden and deepen, as I said before. Specifically, I came here with 5 objectives that I laid out. I made a couple of, I had my Senate confirmation hearing and I talked about it there. First of all, to really make the security cooperation more tangible, more real, especially in pursuit of regional security in Afghanistan and beyond. Secondly, to support the reform, the President Mirziyoyev's reform, which we do through a whole variety of assistance programs. Third, to build those economic links by promoting U.S. business, selling their products here and making investments here. And that requires some matchmaking. It requires giving information to U.S. companies about opportunities here. Fourth, focusing on continued progress on the human rights side. This is an essential aspect of U.S. foreign policy, something that distinguishes us from a lot of other countries in the world, I would say. And it's a goal of ours to see continued progress in that area. And fifth, to build those people-to-people ties through exchange programs, through partnering universities together, through just promoting an understanding of Uzbekistan in the United States and vice versa. And we have a whole variety of tools through which we can do that. But it's that's to be honest, that's the funnest part of my job. It's the part that I really enjoy.
Like that.
Yeah.
You were posted in 2019. Usually it's a 3-year posting, something like that. This is my own personal view, but will you stay on? I hope you do stay on here. Because I know that you are very well respected by the people here. You speak Russian, you speak Uzbek, you know this area, you know these people. Will you stay on?
Well, thank you very much for the kind words, first of all. I will. I have been asked to remain in place, as have every other career ambassador. I'm a career member of the State Department Civil Service, and so I did not resign on January 20th, as many of the politically appointed ambassadors did. So I expect to be here for at least another year, and I look forward to continuing this great opportunity.
Mr. Ambassador, we're in good hands with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the conversation.
I appreciate it.
The Central and South Asia Conference attracted high-powered delegations from throughout the world and naturally a large amount of media attention. In a surprise twist, an Uzbekistan reporter asked me to offer my thoughts about the conference and topics of importance to the Central Asia region.
As we have reported, Tashkent is playing host to a big international conference on Central and South Asia regional connectivity, challenges and opportunities. So ahead of this conference, we're here in a waiting room where many international guests, including foreign journalists. And right now I have Dennis Wholey, with a journalist with many years of experience. Dennis, what is your expectations from this conference?
Well, the exciting thing about the conference, Central Asia, South Asia, bringing together not only countries from this part of the world, but from all over the world. I'm told that there's 60 different countries who are represented at this conference, and the proof is in the pudding. We say that in America. When you cook something and you put it all together, we look for the results. And the results here, we don't know what they'll be, but the expectations are very high.
So what will the conference result in terms of cooperation in trade and investment, in your opinion?
I think that this area is, Central Asia in particular, is growing in importance on the world stage. So I think all eyes right now are focused on Central Asia. And it opens up the opportunity for great trade amongst the different countries. The borders are now open in Uzbekistan to other countries. There is the railroad that is proposed and is already in action between Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, and that could open up the whole world of trade.
So in my previous interview with the ambassador of Pakistan to Uzbekistan, Mr. Galani, he said there was a business forum yesterday between Pakistan and Uzbekistan, and there were several agreements reached between two sides. So, my question is, so there is an infrastructure trade agreement between two countries now, and what will be the result in that case?
Well, the result is that as soon as you open up and have agreements on trade, it can work in both directions. So products that are manufactured here in Uzbekistan can move freely to Pakistan, and Pakistani products can move into Uzbekistan. I'm interested in knowing more about what the agreements say. But if there is cooperation in the air, that's a good sign.
One more thing to note, that Ambassador once noted that three big initiators in this conference will be Uzbekistan, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. Yeah. What is your opinion in that?
Well, I think that all eyes in the world right now are on Afghanistan. And we're all very, very hopeful that some form of peace can be realized in Afghanistan. And Afghanistan, I'm interested if they see the potential of joining in with other countries of Central Asia, but that may be down the road.
Yeah, you have just mentioned opportunities, but what about challenges that will come with the situation in Afghanistan?
If the talks in Doha bring everyone to the table, and not only the United States, not only the government of Afghanistan, but also the Taliban as well, there are other players who should be at the table as well. What we have to find out is what the government of Afghanistan wants, what the people of Afghanistan want, and what the Taliban wants. That may require some very delicate negotiation, and we're all just very hopeful.
As a journalist, do you believe that withdrawal of the U.S. Military will benefit the situation or even make it worse?
Well, I wouldn't characterize it as making it better or worse, but the troops are gone. 90% of the troops are gone. President Bush has just come out and said that he thinks it's a bad idea to pull our troops out. President Biden said 20 years, we've done our part, enough is enough, and now it's up to the people of Afghanistan to make their own way and make their own decisions. It's a difficult call. We know that the American government and President Biden has committed to the government of Afghanistan that they will at least support financially the government, and the people of Afghanistan. So whether that is enough, we'll find out.
Thank you very much, Dennis. It was a nice interview.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hotel accommodations provided by the Hilton, Tashkent City. For information about This Is America and the World, visit our website, thisisamerica.net, or our YouTube channel, This Is America TV, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Underwriting for This Is America and the World is made possible by the Japan-America Society of Washington, D.C., the Republic of Uzbekistan, the Sultanate of Oman, the Kingdom of Morocco, the National Association for Children of Addiction, Faces and Voices of Recovery, the Forerunner Foundation, the Rotendaro Family Trust, and the Embassy Series, Uniting People Through Musical Diplomacy.